In this video, I'll be reviewing 5 great JRPGs that nobody played, and also nobody talks about. Some of them I've covered once or twice in a lifetime, but others I've never talked about before. So let's begin. Number 5. Ehrgeiz. I think a lot of you do know this game or have even played it, but you only know it as a fighting game with some minigames. Yup, the game with characters from Final Fantasy VII. However, you've probably never seen or even played the quest mode, which is an action RPG. Here you play as 2 characters investigating the ruins of a parallel world to that of Ehrgeiz. The story is bare bones and carried only through the interaction with the townspeople, especially its shop owners. Only one town is available with several stores to buy items, equipment, upgrade weapons, trade wine with a blacksmith for these upgrades, yeah. But you can only play as one character at a time. If you want to switch to the other, you'll always have to go back to the inn and change manually. If one of them dies during the exploration, you'll automatically go back to the inn with the one left alive and they can retrieve the other one's corpse to revive them. It's cool, but I'll be honest, dying means losing most of your progress, including weapons and items found, and also you gain experience separately. So my advice is to stick to one character the entire game, and if you die, just reset. The game acts a bit like a roguelike, with dungeons that are randomly generated. You go through the same areas and advance by discovering new segments or defeating bosses and acquiring all sorts of items out there. The bosses require specific patterns to defeat, but mostly by having the right equipment or using a specific spell. Like in roguelike RPGs, there's a hunger meter. Yep, you'll starve to death if you don't eat periodically the food you find while exploring or defeating enemies. Your inventory is also limited, which means you can only carry with you a selective amount of everything, including healing potions. These you can actually equip up to 4 or 5 max and use with only one button. It comes in handy since this game is quite tough, as you may have imagined. Controls during battle vary depending on the weapon and character you use, but it's basically a beat 'em up or rather a hack and slash. It's not that great, but at least it's intuitive and fun despite feeling a bit clunky at times. You have to understand this is a PS1 game from 1998, so it may feel slightly dated. Overall, it's a good time if you're looking to break out of the 3D fighting or silly minigames it has to offer. Number 4. The Legend of Heroes: A Tear of Vermillion. A trilogy of JRPGs was released on PC 98 and PS1 only in Japan, later ported to Windows. Then, almost 10 years later, the 3 were remade on the PSP, and those are the versions we got. This is the first one, even though it was the second one released in Japan, but we got it as the first. It is a prequel of the other 2, so it's fine to start with this. And no, these aren't connected to the Trails series at all. So you control Avin, an orphan kid who has lost his sister when he was younger. He now lives in a peaceful village with his friend Mile, and both wish to one day see Avin's sister once again. Shit happens and they leave the village and off they go into an adventure after the evil Lord Belias. So, you have a town-to-town gameplay here with regular stores, NPCs, side quests, etc. You also have a small overworld, but most of the traveling is done through connecting areas. It's a pretty basic game with okay graphics and nice music. You have to consider it's a remake of a 1996 game when Falcom wanted to compete in the traditional RPG market. The battle system in here is turn-based with up to 4 party members. In fact, one of the most interesting things about this game is that different characters will join your party and then leave and then come back. You know the drill if you've played any Falcom games. It's a very character-driven game, like most of their games. So you select one action, and if it's melee, the character will move towards the enemy and stay there. But they can also push the enemy with their attack, and also vice versa. So you gotta be a bit strategic on how you move and attack here, especially when casting area of effect spells or skills. So, it's a classic turn-based system with a twist, I like it. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent game, very overlooked nowadays. The other 2 are good too, but this one is the best out of the 3. Number 3. Luminous Arc 2. This is part of a trilogy exclusive to the Nintendo DS. We got the first two, but not the third one. I've covered the first one a few times in the past, but this sequel? Only once? And I think that was aeons ago. I abandoned it around 13 years ago because of a difficulty spike, but recently I went back to it to finish it and the spike was gone. Maybe I did something wrong back then, but anyway, it isn't necessary to play the first game first, as this one is its own thing. It takes place in a world where witches coexist peacefully with humans and their magic has been quite helpful for centuries. However, one particular witch named Fatima has been trying to disrupt that peaceful coexistence. Her goal is to unseal an ancient gate that seems to be related to her master, but also to the beast fiends attacking people. So it's up to the Queen's Knights, including the protagonist Roland, to partner up with other witches and stop Fatima. It's a good and interesting story, but two things kinda ruin it. First, it's got tons of comedy and slice of life, which is often cringe, because 2, the translation is utter garbage. Like its predecessor, it got some infamy because the imbeciles at Atlus West thought it would be funny to pull a working designs level of translation here. I'm not kidding. They added dialogue when there isn't, Americanized jokes and bad humor. Nothing politicized like what they do nowadays, but still, it's bad. The English dub is also bad, but thankfully there is a hack with the original Japanese dub, which is the one that I recommend. The game's a traditional RPG, one of those where you have an overworld, but menu-based, and you visit different towns and ruins. No exploration exists other than that, the shops available and the side quests you'll get at the castle town. You just go, get a bunch of dialogue and scenes, and then visit your next mission. So these missions are usually within short maps, but they'll start growing a bit in size as you advance, and so will the enemy numbers. I think most of the maps are very well thought out here, but you can only bring with you a maximum of 6 playable characters. And the ones you don't bring won't gain any experience, yeah, it's one of those, like in most strategy RPGs. So you move on grids and everyone's got regular attacks and skills or magic depending on if they're human or a witch. Skills or spells require MP to use, but then there's also a special skill which requires none. Instead, it uses D points, which you acquire as you take an action other than moving. These points can be used to execute a skill once you get at least 1 out of 3, or you can use 1 bar to increase the damage of a regular skill or spell. As the game progresses, more witches will join your party and Roland will eventually bond with them. This is so he can use Engage during battle to change his element and unlock his own unique special skill. The witch he bonds with needs to be in the battle and alive, and his engagement only lasts for a few turns, which can only be activated once per witch. My advice is to always have at least 2 or 3 witches in your active party, as Roland is a mandatory character for almost every single story battle. Also, keep in mind it's one of those where terrain matters. It can get in the way to move or to attack, and it's also one of those where attacking or getting attacked from behind or the side does more damage. Now, everyone can equip a weapon, a helmet, and armor apart from only 2 usable items per battle, but they can also equip up to 3 lapis stones, which are passive stats or buffs, extremely useful since there's no skill tree system whatsoever. This isn't a hard game with the exception of the final boss, which is brutal, and there's also no permadeath, but it can be challenging quite often. You may have to do a bit of grinding every now and then, except there are no optional maps to grind in other than the side quests. I did a lot of those because the rewards were great, and near the end there's some optional characters to recruit. After every battle you might unlock a short intermission scene with 1 character to increase your bonds with. Also, there's 2 different endings and some battles will have choices you make during dialogue at the beginning. A guide is required to get the second ending since it's very tricky to get. Most of you will get the regular ending, which is okay, no bad endings exist here. The graphics are beautiful, I love the pixel art, the map design and the animations. It's a really good looking JRPG on the system, which reminds me of the 16-bit era. The music is done by Procyon Studio and there are even some themes by legendary Yoko Shimomura. It's not a top tier soundtrack, but it's alright. Overall, this is a rock solid strategy RPG, dare I say better than its predecessor. Definitely check it out if you can. Number 2, Amedama. This is a 2D action RPG from Acquire, developers of the Octopath Traveler and Tenchu series. It came out on Switch, PS5, Xbox, and Windows. It tells the story of a man named Yushin and his little sister Yui. One day, some bandits kill him and his sister is kidnapped. However, his soul miraculously survives, but without a body. So he must literally possess other people or animals' bodies even to try and rescue his sister. It takes place during the feudal Japan era and Yushin only has 7 days to rescue her, but there are also other playable characters with whom Yushin can interact with to take a look at their past or background, all in order to help him in his quest, and yes, you can play as them as well. Possessing here is called soul shifting, and you have to either knock down a target before you can possess them, but when you leave an area, the target will restore and return. However, if you're controlling an animal, you won't be able to talk to people, you have to soul shift to a human, and as you may have imagined, not all humans can fight. Now, the game will progress in a side-scrolling view as you walk around different areas including towns. In these towns, you can buy items that increase your health or a specific stat, most of them being temporary. You have a soul level and you can gain experience by defeating enemies, but your stats will always change or vary depending on the character you're possessing. You have an HP bar and a focus bar which is used to execute basic skills. Then there's a soul bar which can be activated once it fills up. It's used to change stances and fight differently in something called soul specialism, but the more you use this, the more your soul gauge will drain. Combat in this game is action, in a beat 'em up or hack and slash style. Controls may vary depending on the character you're currently possessing, like I said, and it often encourages you to find the right one for this or that area, though options are always quite limited. You usually beat a bunch of enemies or engage against a challenging boss. The controls feel natural, a bit stiff but also precise at the same time. It's quite intuitive and the combos are very easy to execute. It's fun. The graphics are absolutely impressive, with tons of detail and sprites that are larger than usual. It's quite similar to the HD 2D style the developer used in other games, except this is a new one. Music is very folkloric and Japanese, as you may have imagined, quite relaxing most of the time. You know what, there's a lot more to this game than what I'm telling you, but I think you get the idea. It's quite original, mixing both retro and modern looks, as well as being very interesting to play. I think nobody played this game because Acquire released it by themselves and not through a major publisher, which means barely any advertisement was done. Number 1. Growth or Devolution. Also known as God Heed the Call to Awaken, or simply God on the Super Famicom, this is a really cool turn-based RPG. The fan translation was released on 2018 by Dynamic Designs. Its remake on PS1 didn't get one, sadly. Developed by Infinity, it's a sci-fi apocalyptic story about aliens invading the world, trying to expel humanity from it. It takes place in our real world and you play as Jen, or whatever you want to call him, as a little kid first. He comes into contact with a Godstone when the apocalypse happens, and then there's a time jump. We find out he's now working for the Bless organization, which was established precisely to fight the aliens. Thanks to the Godstone though, he now has psychic powers, so by order of Bless, he gets the task to find the few others that also have psychic powers. The game's got an amazing setting, and obviously the best thing about it is that you get to travel to a lot of places in the real world. Characters and NPCs have the exact culture as we know it from every country, or, well, the one we knew in the 90s. The game also has a great sense of humor and mocks with social commentary the several cliches each region is known for. Check this one out from Los Angeles. Wow! Does it remind you of what's going on nowadays or what? Fantastic comedy, writing and translation here, but it also gets serious and dark when it needs to. Nevertheless, this is the reason why the game never left Japan, probably considered too offensive for the snowflake West, and even in Japan this game is kind of obscure. Anyway, you have a traditional town-to-town RPG here, but one with an overworld and random encounters. The rate is balanced while traversing the world map, but unfortunately inside the dungeons it goes bonkers and can really be annoying. I ended up using fast forward a lot during battle because of this, but also because they take forever. This is a difficult game, not quite a grindfest, but challenging nonetheless. As a result, enemies are tough and hard to kill, especially the bosses. Fortunately, the bosses are very fun to fight, all thanks to the game's battle system and the cool animations you see there. Everyone's got regular attacks, but also chakra skills, special native skills, and magic spells known as psycho powers. The latter is self-explanatory, and yeah, enemies have strengths and weaknesses based on that. As for the native skills, characters will learn them as the story progresses. Your main character will learn a bunch of which are really powerful but sadly very inaccurate. Finally, there are the chakra skills. You know, by progressing through the story, you'll find more godstones to increase the level of each sphere. These are found in the menu and everyone can learn the same ones with the exact same skills, but you can only focus on one and equip one at a time. Though eventually you'll be able to link 2 of them, which means equipping 2 at the same time, and level them up. To get the Cosmo points needed to level each sphere up and learn skills, you just have to fight battles. And this is where the game shines, with that combat, those cool graphics during battle, and the worldwide exploration. But in my opinion, nothing beats the incredible story and the amazing black humor the game offers. Just let me give you a warning, I found it almost impossible to get throughout without a guide, especially near the end where the game just goes batshit crazy with open world shenanigans. But with one guide and a fast forward button for battles, you'll be fine. And you'll also grow to appreciate this criminally overlooked gem, which I now see as one of the best SNES JRPGs ever made.